All right. Hi, everybody. Claire Wasserman here, founder and author of Ladies Get Paid. We are an educational platform, global community, and a book that is all about helping women earn more and live better. And every Monday, I host a free job seeker support group because I know that this is a time in our lives that is really or can be quite scary. But I'm actually really excited about this time in our life because it is a chance where we can reset. So whether or not it's happening to you, meaning you were laid off or something external, your circumstances changed and you didn't want them, or it's you, it's internal, you want to make a change, you get to now decide, do I want to be living my life the way that I'm living? And not to turn this into a whole like cascade of an existential, crisis. But what's so awesome about changing your job is you also have a chance to potentially change your lifestyle, how you show up in this world, how much money you're making, what are your values, what are your priorities, how do you, not just like where you're working, but I kind of just said this already, but like how you're working. And it can be overwhelming, which is why I just think it is so important to find a community. You can do all the research you want on how to find a job, but it is lonely AF in that process. And I think the best way to go about this is to just hear from other people about what are they doing, the day to day, those moments of rejection, those moments of self-rejection, right? Like, again, you can do all the research you want and read all the blog articles, but for me, at least, it's hearing other people's stories that really shows me I'm not alone in what I'm going through. What I like to do in these job seeker support groups is change it up, experiment a little bit. So last session, we had a guest speaker. Next session, we're going to have another guest speaker, and we're actually going to make it very interactive with resumes. She's a resume editor. So I'm going to have you all bring your resumes. But today, it's going to be about live coaching with me. So I'm a coach, as well as the founder of Ladies Get Paid. And I'm going to have Tammy's going to start. I think Victoria also has a question, and anybody else who's brave enough to come up here with me, it is up to you if you want to leave your camera on. No pressure, but I want to see if I can do my best to support you through this. I am not, I don't want to say I'm not an expert because that takes away from my validity. Yes, I am an expert. However, I don't know. I'm not sure what your question is going to be. I'm not prepared for it. So I will do my best to try to provide some kind of framework or at least a perspective that puts you into a place where you are empowered. And then after about, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes or so, let's do breakouts, like find opportunities through each other. I will, of course, at that point, stop the recording. We'll do breakouts. I'll give you guys a networking prompt, and then we'll come back. And if you met somebody that you loved, which I know you will, because the Ladies Get Paid community is awesome, please introduce them. Sound good? All right. So Tammy, I'm going to have you come up here. But if you want to turn off your camera, that is up to you. I want to ask you to do that now. No, you're good. All right. So let's just add. Okay, my brave friend. I don't know what your question is, but go ahead and let's see if my caffeine has kicked in by the time you're done asking it.
Okay. So my question is, I've submitted numerous resumes and cover letters and all the stuff that goes along with it, and hear from maybe a quarter of the folks. So do I look at, okay, I'm presenting myself poorly in writing, or what do I need to do to energize things so that I'm getting more feedback and getting more responses?
Yes. Awesome. This is such a good question that so many people have. Well, my first question to you is, has anybody looked at the materials that you're submitting in terms of have you gotten anybody editing it or feedback on it, or, you kind of just doing this on your own?
I had gotten some feedback right away. So a couple months ago, and then there was another person who gave me some completely different feedback. So I changed everything up based upon them. And then a third person gave me completely different feedback as well. So now when I submit something, I'm like, I don't even know what to do. I'm kind of confused. And if I give it to somebody else, if they suggest a fourth way, then right. What do I do then?
Oh gosh, it's almost, this is even, well, it goes to show you that there's not one standard necessarily one standard way to do this, which could be kind of good news. Just a quick question on whoever gave you the feedback. Were they recruiters? Were they coaches? Were they a job seek? Were these random people like who, always consider the source? So what kind of qualifications did they have to give feedback on your materials?
So the first one is a friend of mine who is also a recruiter.
Mhm.
The second one was I submitted it to someplace to have them review. And then the third one was a recruiter who was specifically looking for a specific job. So she said I wasn't presenting myself well, I wasn't presenting my strengths
Okay.
and my accomplishments enough so that people would know what I've done.
Great. Okay. Okay. And was the feedback mostly about the content, about the formatting, or both?
A little bit of both. The first my recruiter friend was more about, okay, let's get the verbiage correct here. Let's make sure that it comes across in the way that you want.
Hmm.
And the second one, I'm less trusting of the feedback I got from that, just
Okay.
for a variety of reasons. And the third one, as I mentioned, it was truly based on you've done so much more. So
Okay.
you need to present that.
Okay. Okay. And again, just to confirm that I understand correctly, you're just not getting as many responses as you'd like.
Correct.
Okay. And how are you applying? Is it all through cold applications, through, personal referrals? Kind of like
Little
what's your networking part
little
aspect
bit
of
of
all this?
everything.
Okay.
So some personal referrals, some recruiters, and then just, cold applying.
Hmm.
So I see it and I'm like, oh, okay,
Right. Okay. And how active are you on LinkedIn?
very. I
You
go
are.
there every day.
Okay. What are you doing on LinkedIn?
I am reaching out to different folks, looking at companies, and then once I see a job, then I'm doing more research on LinkedIn. Like,
Mhm.
who are the people who work there? What do they look like? What's the company look like? And then, of course, I do a Google search of the company and get more information so that when I put the letter together and when I put the specific words and that sort of stuff, that it would be picked up and it's applicable to that situation. No two resumes that I submit are the same.
Right. And last question, are you posting at all on LinkedIn, whether
Yes.
it's from your own site? Okay. And how often do you post?
Oh, probably about every 7 to 10 days.
Okay. Okay. Um, can I ask, and if you're not comfortable telling me, that's fine, but what would you like to do?
I've been in HR for about 30 years.
Okay.
I'm very much a people person. So the title isn't as much important to me as being involved to help people be their best.
Man, so this is an industry that I think needs a lot of help, but are you seeing that it's downsized?
Um, from what I'm hearing, they're just getting really more picky.
Hmm.
Some of the companies who I've been in touch with, um, they ended up late in the game getting an internal referral and thinking, oh, well, we're just going to go with somebody who is
Yeah.
already here,
Yeah. Yeah.
even if they don't have the HR that they're looking for.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to give somewhat general advice. It's hard to say exactly because I'd want to see your resume and your cover letter to be able to give you something more personalized. But I'm just going to give kind of general advice that you may already know, but other people might not. By the way, somebody named Amber has a beautiful static photo on her thumbnail. So shout out to Amber. And then I want to go dig into you posting more on LinkedIn and really becoming a thought leader, because what you specialize in terms of HR and wanting people to like do and be their best is so needed right now. Like we want to hear from you. And I also don't want you to wait to get the job to be able to exercise that muscle, because that's very demoralizing to not get to like be what you're gifted at to have to wait for somebody else to give you that opportunity. Let's see if you can kind of, in a way, become your own client, you know? So I'll talk about that in just a minute. In terms of how you are presenting yourself, I mean, I recommend for everybody to just start with a master document of all of the things that they've done, and most specifically, just the impact that they had, so that it is less about the responsibilities, because anybody can say that, but more about what happened when you did that. And if we can translate it into dollars in any way, and by the way, for everybody listening, if you're thinking, I'm not sure how to translate my work into dollars, if you saved your company time, like if you made processes more efficient, you contributed to company culture, that equals money. But don't worry about that yet. It's really just about impact, and getting as specific as you can. If there's beautiful things people have said to you, right? Like, you know, testimonials, responses, whether it was from a peer or a mentor or a boss, you know, they don't need to be too senior, just something that really helps the other side visualize why you, because again, if you're looking at a document, if you're looking at what you submit and really anybody could say those things, how are you going to stand out, right? But again, I'm sure you've done this, right? You created that master doc. Then for each of the jobs that you apply for, you tailor your resume based on the bullet points that they're putting out there for the job description. I have a feeling that you're doing all of these things. So I think, or my hunch is, it's not that what you're showing them is not right. It's just that we need to bulk up your presence so that when they Google you, when they look you up on LinkedIn, they really get a fuller understanding of how you think, how you feel, who you are. Because again, with knowing how, you know, you've been in the workforce for so long, I mean, I'm sure you have all the requisite things on your resume. That being said, I actually do want to, I want to ask you, do you feel like there's ageism happening at all?
Well, I hope not.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk about experience, I just say over 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm looking at director level and above. And so I know that they're looking for somebody who does have enough experience
Yes.
to know A from Z.
Good. Good. The reason I just
So
asked that, yeah, no, and the reason I asked that is because I also want everybody to really hone in on what are the things that make you special. And sometimes a concern that folks have is, okay, is this ageism? We can make that a thing that is special about you, right? The fact that you have all of these years of experience, you've probably worked in a diversity of places, that gives you, you know, that's unique, you know, to somebody who's maybe just getting started. Do you feel like everything I've said so far, I have a feeling you're doing? How do you feel about like the cohesive message that you know, if I were to interview you, do you feel confident that I would be able to walk away from our conversation and be able to describe you and what makes you great to another person?
I certainly hope so.
Mhm.
I know that I go in there thinking be positive, and a message that I will repeatedly say if there's multiple people, so that they're all hearing the same thing, is that I'm for people.
Mhm.
You know, I am here to support them and help them, because no one wakes up to fail.
Mhm.
And I want to make sure that success happens.
Yes.
I do repeatedly say that.
Yes. I love that. And I would just do, and here's how I do it. And I know we don't want to, you know, my goal here is that somebody can walk away and describe you very quickly. So the how has to be also concise. But I love that as the first part of how I understand your ethos. And I just really encourage everybody to put yourself in the shoes of the other person you're talking to and craft that elevator pitch for them to advocate on your behalf to whoever their boss is. And so it's, yes, what does this person stand for? When, you know, what makes them special? But really it's in the how, right? Like I could sit here and say, oh, you know, I run Ladies Get Paid. Great. How? I think it's the realness, right? It's like meeting people where they're at, remembering that it's not just about conveying information, but how people feel about the information and, you know, sparking peer-to-peer, you know, I really tried to dig into like, how do I do this? Because there's so many other people who also run communities like mine. So that is something I would really encourage you to dig into in that kind of quote elevator pitch or personal branding or whatever we say. I hate all of those words. I need to come up with a new way of describing it. But how does the other person receive you? That would be, I think, the next step. In terms of LinkedIn, I really encourage everybody to map out every day what is at least one post that you can do that expresses, yeah, Jennifer's inspired by that. I'm for people. I think, yeah, I'm hoping that's on your LinkedIn. And then again, underneath would be bullet points like, here are the 3 ways that I do that, right? But think about on LinkedIn, if you were to post every day, what is something that you could provide that is of value to another person that you've experienced, whether it's imagining that thinking back in the past to scenarios that you were in at your job, ways that you guided, whether it was dealing with processes or with people or with policies. Oh, those are 3 Ps: process, people, and policies. You could also post about your job seeker journey, things you're learning along the way. You could post about people that you were meeting that, whether they're here or elsewhere, recommending them. You could share articles within your industry. This is something that I saw that inspired me, or, hey, got me to think. Pose a question to your, community. I think that for every single person here, and I know there's going to be some folks who are rolling their eyes going, oh God, I can't believe I have to do this. Just remember, you're helping another person while simultaneously getting yourself into people's feeds. Please, please, please get yourself into people's feeds. It's that consistency that is so crucial, because every time somebody goes on LinkedIn, which we're now all on it, I want you to be in their feed. And then, today there may not be an opportunity for you, but if you consistently post, all of a sudden, somebody in your network or in their network, there's an opportunity that comes your way. Or you're cold applying, but when they look you up on LinkedIn, they see a body of work. Because if we only rely on our cover letters and our resumes and maybe a website to express who we are, that really shortchanges ourselves. There's so much more that you have to express about, again, not just what you do, but how you are in this world. Carolyn said, I got quoted on a LinkedIn post last week. Of course I did. There you go. Right? Like, you never know who's going to pick this stuff up. And especially for Tammy, knowing that you are in HR, I mean, you have probably such a wealth of, not probably, I know you have a wealth of knowledge that everybody really needs to hear, especially on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is almost like the community. It's the audience that you specifically need. I mean, everyone should be doing this, but you in particular, if you're doing anything to do with like helping people with work, like, you have 1 billion people on LinkedIn who want to hear from you, and you're an expert, you're an expert. So I would really imagine yourself like you don't just do work for people at companies, you're helping everybody on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And I just think,
thank you.
You're welcome. I think that A, that's going to be helpful in general, but B, I think it's going to keep you motivated, everybody here. Because again, we're all itching to like put our skills to work, but we're not getting that job yet. So now we're just like, so is what I do look for work? Like, that's demoralizing. So, to me, when you come up with a content schedule on LinkedIn, it is like hiring yourself. But just imagine that it's as if, let's just imagine that LinkedIn hired you to provide helpful information for people who are looking for work or looking to do better in their jobs or whatever, and you'll kind of figure out what within your expertise. I just highly recommend for everybody listening, give yourself time to brainstorm, but then operationalize it, because otherwise you're not going to do this consistently, and this has to be sustainable for you. So when I say operationalize it, it's like, here are the 5 categories of content that I post. Maybe spend a Monday batching, looking up articles that you're going to share, right? Like, pre-prepare this as much as possible, then put it on your calendar every day, 9 a.m. I'm going to post one thing, right? Or start experimenting with, all right, let's see if I do one really long post, a week. What does it look like to me when I write this? For example, I write a lot of my stuff on my phone, lying down or walking. not on my computer because I overthink it when I'm on my. So within this experience, within this process of being this sort of content provider, don't just rely on willpower and motivation, because that's going to be hard to come by. So I really urge everybody to think about in what way can I systematize this, if that's even a word. Yeah. Yeah, look, Katie said, yes, Tim, I would love to follow along and hear from your perspective on LinkedIn. So there you go. You already have some fans here. And
Thank you.
Autumn's asking, why is, so I'll let you out of the hot seat. Keep us posted, of course. So Autumn says, why is creating content now a thing for looking for a job? Well, here's the thing. Even though, so the way you're asking that question, I'm imagining you're looking at this as, oh God, another thing I have to do, right? This is exhausting. I don't want to have to do it. I would love for you to see this as, wow, you have an opportunity to network without anyone else participating, right? Early, before online shit, network, you had to go in person. Well, that's a lot of energy. That's exhausting. That requires you to, be an extrovert or muster up some extrovert energy. So now we have on the ability to do this digitally. But I would love for you not to have to, you have to go to an event, an online event to network or get an introduction, right? Because all of those things require other people's participation and it takes energy. But here, with just providing content, you don't need anybody else to be visible. So I think, and again, if we're flipping the script from, this is a thing that I have to do, it's annoying or it's self-promotional, to in what way can I share my life experience, my work experience to help others and to create my own job. So let's just all imagine that, we've been hired by somebody, whether it's LinkedIn, in Tammy's case, I would say it would be like LinkedIn hiring her. Or if you were hired, you were a freelancer, hired by a company. Like I'll give you a quick example. One of my clients, she's in marketing and PR. And she was really struggling with like what she was going to put on LinkedIn. And I said, well, just imagine that you are your own client and the product is you. I hate that we have to be our own products, but hello, welcome to capitalism. So anyway, she's her own product. She needs to market herself to attract opportunity. And when she saw it that way, all of a sudden it became easier. It was really fascinating to watch somebody who literally helps others do PR for a living not realize that she could help herself do PR, but that she was the product. So sometimes it just takes a little bit of a perspective shift in that way to make it easier. Now I had a question so Tammy said, how do you feel about starting a blog? I've been debating this for a while. Yeah, I think my concern with starting blogs is a little bit of a chicken and the egg. When you start a blog, or at least for me, a lot of my perfectionism comes into play. Like I want everything to be so really, like it has to be really well written and all this stuff. What we're trying to do is to just get you noticed on LinkedIn. And build awareness and build a body of work. And also like, where are we directing people? So if there's a reason to direct people to your website that you think it's more important for them to go to the website than to your LinkedIn page, for example, for Ladies Get Paid, like I would rather people go ultimately to the Ladies Get Paid site than our LinkedIn page. So for us, yes, we should have a blog and we should be doing LinkedIn posts that get people from LinkedIn over to the blog. However, for you, I think your blog is LinkedIn. Like instead of long posts, they're just LinkedIn posts. That being said, there are, I think character limits for posts. So if you do have something quite lengthy to say, then yes, yeah, you would want to start a blog. But until you're at that point, I would say just like build the muscle of content consistency. Amber, I would love to hear, and if you don't want to unmute, that's totally fine. But you wrote, I cannot think of what to post on LinkedIn. I know people said to get inspired by people's comments. What do you recommend with someone who struggles so much like this on me? I'd love to dig into that with you because the advice that I just gave, it sounds good, but in application, if you're somebody like Amber going, all right, well, theoretically, yes, but specifically, what do I say? Do you want to give more detail about what it is that you do and what your like expertise is? And I'll try to spitball with you some content ideas.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So basically, I am an instructional designer. I did work for a corporate company last year, and I am a former educator. So I work with a career coach. She's amazing. she has tried to give me prompts about what to put, content wise, all of these things. I read people's posts and I just think I don't have that in me. I don't want to just post to post. I don't want to just say, hooray, we will all get through this. I want to have a unique voice, but I am struggling like a lot to try to find something. I read some people's posts and I'm just like, wow, they really have it. I read others and I'm just like, okay. And I just don't know the topics. I don't know if I should maybe look online, and because I've been trying to find online if there's like a schedule, like maybe focus on this for like Monday, Tuesday. I know LinkedIn has like their social Saturday, their something Monday, their Wednesday, their Friday, their everything. But I just struggle to come up with original content. A lot of people are now saying use chat GPT, and that can give you ideas. But I'm struggling. And I can understand the whole networking thing about, being able to reach to people and reach alumni, people in jobs that, in companies you want to be in. But this whole creating content, honestly, I need help.
Yes. Oh, good. All right. I'm so happy that we're working here together. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for your honesty. And I am sure there are many people here who are listening who are nodding their heads. I think let's strip away the pressure to make this super duper original. Because to me, LinkedIn, it's about experimenting, AKA you post some stuff, you see how they perform, and that's going to give you an inclination of what else to build upon, right? Because maybe you do 3 to 5 different kinds of posts, and perhaps 1 or 2 of them gets a lot of people commenting on it or liking it. That's going to then signal to you, hey, maybe my audience is interested in this part of what I have to share. So that, just to relieve the pressure of you feeling like you need to have everything figured out before you get started. Same thing with like making a schedule or anything like that's like you're thinking 3 steps ahead right now. We're just like, let's just start real fucking foundational here. And by the way, everything I'm saying to you, I say to myself because I tend to think really big, which is a wonderful quality, but then like I then don't get started. So as Ashley, my wife says, season 2, whenever I have like an idea that requires like 5 steps to get there. So I would start first and foremost, your transparency about God, we're supposed to be these content creators. That's not what I do for a living. I feel pressure to do it. Anyone else feeling this? Maybe just post that, just starting by being kind of transparent and like rally. Cause from my perspective, because I'm, I see all these job seekers, there are so many people who agree with you. So sometimes, folks are comfortable with being transparent about their job seeker journey. And like hot take it, right? Like, or controversial take, like Robin's feeling this, right? So like, see if maybe just posting some transparent, funny thoughts about this whole thing might get some traction. And then if you could maybe engage your audience, ask them for help in the sense of, how are you all figuring out what it is like to post content, or like, because that's going to get engagement. And that's the key here, right? If this is about getting exposure, right, to people in your network, and most importantly, to people in their network, you want people to respond to you. You want them to tag people. So here's an idea. Hey, I'm struggling with coming up with content ideas for what I do. Maybe you could give some examples of like, here are some of my skill set or whatever. Ask people if they have suggestions, but here's what's even more clever. Ask them to tag somebody that they think is doing this well. Like it's like, who do you know who's figured out how to, post original or share whatever. My caffeine is starting to wear off. Something where you're getting people to tag, and they're gonna love that because they're now paying it forward to their friend. They're getting exposure for their friend, right? We love that, and it's getting you into their feed. Just make sure you're responding to people. So when they do comment. Sure. And do it as pretty quickly also. Because the more engagement, you're going to just get caught into the algorithm of LinkedIn. So I would think about Sometimes it's, you don't know what to say. So pose a question, to people and then encourage them to tag somebody. So I would think about that. I would
That's awesome.
good. I would also, I mentioned this to Tammy, but, share articles, be a curator of resources for others, because sometimes, the pressure of, I have to have an original thought, Jesus Christ, like that is, that's a big thing. So as you're thinking of original thoughts, how about in the meantime, be a sort of pass through of resources that you have found interesting and helpful for you in your career, in your job search. Give it to others, whether it's, something that's industry related. I would encourage you to definitely do that. But it also could be things like, hey, I'm, learned a new way to manage my time or to manage my energy, or I hate meditating, but this meditation worked for me. Like anything that you think could help others, be that curator of resources.
I really like that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like that gives me like focus and stuff. So I really do appreciate that.
You're welcome. Yeah. So I would definitely do that. And then in terms of again, this like expertise or original thought, maybe one way to begin is to reflect on the work that you've done in the past. Are there any great stories that you can share? I mean, of course there are, because you put them in your cover letter, you put them in your resume. And so I'm going to give just a quick example of what I mean. So so a new angle that I'm trying to become known for, or I guess I already am known for, but I really want to lean into it more, is helping women take kind of the principles of negotiation and then widen it more holistically in their life, AKA the art of persuasion, right? I really want to help women basically get to yes. How do you convince somebody to give you an opportunity or to greenlight your idea? Okay. And I was thinking in my past of experiences that I've had where I was able, sort of against all odds, to convince somebody to say yes to me. And so I'm going to start sharing those stories, right? Whether they were, writing a letter in French to a French foundation to donate money to the film I produced, or in high school, raising money to build an all-girls school in Afghanistan, or, so these things can be from many, many, many years ago. It doesn't matter, but it's a story with a lesson that can help another person. And it's demonstrating what you're really good at. So
Awesome. Okay.
since you and everybody else has to be doing this work anyway, in terms of reflecting on your career and your life and finding those, I'm going to call them case studies, you have to do that anyway for your resume and your cover letter and talking points in your interview. Can we turn them into posts as well? Because again, I'm really thinking ahead to when somebody Googles you, or this hiring manager, is looking on your LinkedIn, how are they going to see who I want you to come alive, right?
Right.
So that might be another thing to do, but just don't wait until start posting in the things I kind of just recommended, like
Right.
start posting. Don't wait until you have all of these like great things to say. But do this work kind of simultaneously. That advice of reflecting on case studies and finding lessons to share, does that resonate with you? Can you already think of some things to do?
Yes, I think I can. And especially maybe targeting it a little bit to going from education into the corporate world and the differences there, advice, recommendations, things I've learned. I think that can also help. That can be a little avenue for transition teachers that haven't made the move quite yet. So maybe things that would help. But I do have one question for you. Like, wouldn't this be seen as a negative point on my side by future hiring managers, recruiters, by, talking about, hey, it's hard to create content. How would you do this? Because isn't it and I'm old school, I'm older, so maybe that's why I'm thinking this way. But don't they just want to see like a super confident person? I got this done. Hire me because I know this. Won't some of these posts like raise doubts to that?
That's a good question. I want to hear what other people have to say about this. Because all right. My feeling is, if you express your humanness, your humanity, but you're doing it in a way that shows how you're figuring it out. So even if you're asking a question of like, hey, well, first of all, you're not being hired to be a content creator. So I just want to be clear about this. You saying, hey, I want to get more active on LinkedIn. And one way, and advice I've gotten is to create content, but I'm not a content creator. Has anyone else struggling with this? Like, that's not part of your job description for what you're applying to, I'm imagining. So for you to like not quote
Sure.
be good at it, like, I don't think that's gonna, reflect poorly on you. Especially if you can defend every choice that you make, right? So I am doing this because I want to take command of my circumstances. That is a very admirable quality that anyone wants to hear. I am not content to just sit back and apply cold. I want to do everything I can to get this job and to, create a community along the way, right? So do think ahead to like how you would, I guess, kind of quote, defend the choice. My feeling is if you are being transparent about what you're going through, but framing it in such a way that shows how you're dealing with it, right? Like, yes, this is a struggle, but here are 3 ways that I've, gotten a more positive mindset, right? So when somebody sees it, they go, okay, yes, she's being transparent, but also I can see how she's thinking. And and you're thinking in a way that's it's intentional, it's, motivated. So you're not just like leaving your dirty laundry out to hang, so to speak. You're just like, if you ever have an issue at work, I would never recommend somebody just go into the boss's office and complain. No, you go, here's the issue. And here are maybe 2 solutions that I've already thought of. I'm seeking your counsel on it. Right. So it's not whether or not you share the reality of what's going on. It's demonstrating that you also have thought through ways in which to make it better. Does that make sense?
Sorry about the unmuting. Yes, it absolutely does.
Yeah. But yeah, if you do have hesitation, if you ever feel like something, the person would look at it and think poorly on you, then yeah, maybe I don't want to put anybody into a position where they've like been, I mean, if you're just like complaining on LinkedIn, yeah, that's probably not great. But if you're talking about a real issue and you say why you care, and here's what you're doing, I think that's great. I'm seeing we've got 20 minutes to the end. So let's take the next 10 minutes. So thank you, Amber, for that. I am going to say for the next 10 minutes. Oh, good. We've got 30 people. So more than I thought. Hooray. So I'm going to pair y'all off. I don't know what prompt. Okay. So the prompt I would suggest everybody to use is content on LinkedIn. How about you brainstorm some ways that you can all get more active in sharing your expertise? And if you're hearing the word expertise and thinking, I don't have it, yes, you do. Nobody has your life experience. They really don't. Just like Amber said, she made that pivot from education, into instructional design or whatever she did. Like that pivot, she's got some gold to share there, with people. If you're somebody who, moved to a foreign country, moved across the country, you got expertise to share. So don't just dig into your work experience, dig into your life experience. And I would say for 10 minutes, map out, at least 3 categories of content that you can be sharing on LinkedIn on a consistent basis. And also, how will you operationalize it? Meaning, what's the schedule? I mean, you don't need to get down to like absolute nitty gritty of everything, but just ensuring that this isn't just something you'll do once because you're inspired. You put it into a system of sustainability. All right, so I see that pause, buddy. Recording. So now we're back from breakouts. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so Laura, your question is, and then I'd love for folks to share what they learned or who they met.
Well, we were talking about how tailoring your resume and your cover letter to every single job that you're going to apply to is so time consuming. And like me, I don't have the headspace to do that more than once or twice a day. I'm not that proficient at it, and I struggle with it.
Mm-hmm. You have a master resume or a master document somewhere that you're okay. And for each job that you're applying for, I mean, are they all radically different from each other, or they're basically variations? Okay.
Yeah.
The only reason that you want to, the only tailoring that you're really doing here is just to confirm that you're integrating the keywords.
Okay. That's fair enough.
So if you're integrating the keywords, it's probably not really a matter of rewriting anything. It's just like integrating the keywords, or if there's things that you see that they've written about their company culture, I'd love for you to speak specifically to that and how it's relevant to, who you are. So maybe that means like, you're swapping out a sentence in your cover letter, based on what they say about the company culture and how that might be different from the other job. What are you, when you say like in your struggle to do this, like, have you been doing it and struggling, or it's the idea of it? Because in practicality, like how much time is this actually taking?
Oh no, it's in theory right now. I keep hearing that repeatedly as advice. I'm like, I don't, and I feel like mostly my resume usually has all the keywords. And so I don't feel the need to do it, but I was starting to feel like I must be doing something wrong if I'm not doing that.
You want to confirm. I mean, first and foremost, to make it as easy as possible on yourself, please do have like a big document with everything so that you can copy and paste. Like if you're seeing in the jobs I apply for, there tends to be kind of 3 variations or whatever. You can just like, it's really a copy and paste job. I really don't want anyone having to like feel the need to write original content each time, but it might be that swapping out, from the master doc. There's that. And then if you could get, if there's research you've done, then you find something specific like, hey, the CEO was interviewed on this podcast and they said this thing, drop that in the cover letter, right? Like that's going to, make you stand out. So yes, that will take a little bit of work, but I don't think you'll mind doing something like that. I think what like overhauling, which you shouldn't be overhauling unless the jobs you're applying to are all radically different from each other.
Right, I agree. So that makes me feel better because that was along the lines what I was thinking. I'm like, I do if I'm like, if there's a piece of technology, because I'm a technologist, there's a piece of technology that I have experience with, but it's not on my resume. I'm gonna swap something out and put that in.
Right.
So I do those sorts of things.
Yeah, my intention or my sort of hope would be you have everything written out that you could possibly need, and it's just a matter of moving things around. It's just puzzle pieces. You're just assembling maybe a little bit of a different puzzle each time, but that you shouldn't need to be creating something new. Thank you for asking that, because that is a question a lot of people have for sure.
I have a quick question. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
A question regarding, as you said, the without changing the content of the job, without changing the content of the resume or whatever we have in our hands, the original one. But coming to the ATS point of view, if it is not catching hold of the key points, it will reject it. It will always reject the resume, I heard. So basing on that point, many people suggested to change for basing on the job description, change the resume according to the keywords taking into consideration. So for that, as Laura said, we need to change for every time the job description according to the job description, resume, and the covering letter too. And as she said, it will take lots of time. It eats lots of time, nearly 45 minutes like that. I tried it, but I can whole day, I can make it only 1 or 2 resumes or applications. But then also I'm not getting any calls.
So I'd love for everybody to come next week. We're going to have somebody who specializes in resumes. So please, that's because we're out of time here, and I wanted some people to share. So what I'm going to just thank you for speaking up, and I'm going to say the best thing you could do is come for next week, or at least register, and I'll send everybody an email today. We're going to have Jen Walker-Wall, and she specializes in resumes. And if you could bring your resume as well as a job that you're applying for or would like to apply for, so that she can really show you what the process is of tailoring it. Also, I see in the chat that Robin says, I use ChatGPT. It helps helps me narrow down the focus to the bullet points I want to highlight and gives me ideas on how to customize my resume for each job listing. By the way, that's a great example of content that you could post, by the way, Robin, on LinkedIn, like give, and maybe even like include a screenshot of, just getting really specific. We also have another one here. You can post a job description on wordcounter.net and pull out the keywords. Great. If we can be that kind of curator of resources for each other, fabulous. I would just love to invite I know we're technically at time, but I'm happy to stick around for a couple more minutes. If somebody wants to unmute and share a thing that they learned either today, in the whole experience or from the person that they did the breakout with, or if there's somebody that they met with that they think everyone else should know about, I want to cede the floor to at least one person before we all go and start posting on LinkedIn. Anyone brave enough to come up?
Hi, everyone.
Yes. Hello, Evelina.
Hello. Today in a breakout room, it's so funny, I was matched up with a woman which confirmed my inner, not very pleasant gut feeling about the job search. So it was like a universe information, which is not really maybe a nice one. So I don't know what the rest thinks about it. But basically, I'm also in an unsuccessful job search. And I think one of the things that I consider, instead of all the time going like, I'm not saying positive mindset is not good, but like going after another one, and sometimes not integrating the feedback or not looking a little bit deeper why you didn't get the job does not help you to actually get it. Mm-hmm. And what I'm coming up to conclusion with actually that I might consider in getting a job that is not necessarily at the level that I want, but it's still within more or less the interest of mine. Because going after this more, better, I'm gonna try, just keep gonna do more and it's gonna work out. It's not always working out. And that's also experience that I heard from my breakout partner. And what I'm doing, I'm never giving up and keeping the positive mindset. But actually, I think the root problem sometimes is somewhere else. And no matter how much we don't want to admit it, sometimes it's okay maybe to take that job it's good enough. And maybe not necessarily the next thing that you're really aiming at so hard.
Right.
I know it's not very popular opinion I just shared with you, but of course, if you have something to add, you're very welcome.
No, I think that's a good point because again, it goes back to the pressure that Amber, I think, felt of like, it must be an original post. I mean, there's so many things in life that we put pressure on ourselves for, and we're not thinking of like the next small step. I mean, it's a very personal choice though, right? Like what you're willing to take, is it a pay cut, but you just need the salary? Are you still going to be able to have the bandwidth to look for other things or create side projects, to grow? Is it helping you develop at least in one area that is important, if not all the areas? I mean, nothing is permanent, that's for sure. But I do think it's important to consider how much energy is this going to take? If I say yes to this opportunity, what are the sacrifices that I'm going to be making, in this decision? And if it's a job that's going to just exhaust you and you're not going to really grow that much from it, maybe it's better in the short term to, continue to look. But again, that's just make the list of like, there's a sacrifice in every choice that you make. And maybe right now, the anxiety of not having work or being really unhappy is not worth it. It's better to have something that's bringing in money and building a small aspect of what you want. That alleviating the stress is going to now open up more space for you, at least, in your energy to be more positive, which will then attract more opportunities. Right. But that's really a personal, really personal choice.
Can I add something? Thank you so much. I think it's very nice how you elaborated it, because it's indeed boils down to personal. And of course, we wish the best for ourselves. We want the best. We think we deserve the best. And we put the efforts, we're willing to put the efforts to get that best. But when you could say universe job market just keeps saying, me, there is something you should be readjusting inside then and make the compromise, because a lot of big life decisions require compromise, even though it seems a little bit hurtful to accept that.
Right. And I think it's just a question of, for right now and your values and priorities and goals, like what are you willing to compromise? Because again, something has to, right, in terms of like the sacrifice, there's always something that's got to give. Always. And what that is for you today in this season of your life, it's going to change too. So I think knowing the right questions to ask yourself in that way. is really good. One other thing I want to just mention in terms of like being positive and trying again and all that, that can get very exhausting. So I would really encourage everybody to think about what I can do that's more experimental. So it's not just doing the same thing over and over again. It's, can I look at this in a different way? Can I try, just to close out, because I know we're at time. There was something that I was thinking of the other day that I just want to share with you all. I don't know if it's going to be helpful. I'm going to just be honest. It's just something I wrote down and food for thought. And hopefully next session, y'all can tell me what you think. So I wrote, job seeking can be a painful time in your life, so you might as well embrace it as an opportunity to revisit and reset everything in your life that you think deserves an upgrade. Ways of thinking, of feeling, of doing, of not doing. Use this time to commit to self-growth, to trying something new, to getting experimental. So what is that thing, right? What is the thing in your life, or many things in your life, that you think deserve an upgrade, internally, externally? How are you currently going about it? What if you went about it in the complete opposite way? What might that be like? Right? So if you're currently, let's say, trying to, something that you think is an upgrade you'd like is to, have more, quote, discipline or willpower in your life. All right. How are you currently doing that? Is it an inner critic? What happens if you went about it in the exact opposite way? That would be inner compassion. Really write out, what would that look like? Right. So that's going to just be some food for thought. Again, I haven't really wrapped my full mind around it. It was just something that came to me the other day when I was thinking about our session today. But just, everything in your life that you think deserves an upgrade, internally and externally, how are you currently going about it? What about if you did it in the complete reverse way? Point being, experimental, right? All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Please open up your email when I send it later today. It's going to have the recording invitation to next week's Eventbrite, which will be the Job Seeker Review. We've got other events going on, ladiesgetpaid.com/events. Lots of free stuff in 2 hours. I go live pretty much every day on LinkedIn with a different coach. So, hope you join me today. It's with Yanali Espinal. It's about reaching money goals. Also, and then, by the way, when I send the email, the follow-up email, I've been starting an experiment, speaking of experimenting, with inviting you to a LinkedIn post where I kind of recap what we talked about. Comment on my post. Like, I'm going to give you all a prompt. Use that as a way to stay connected with each other and to start this experiment of being our own clients, giving ourselves a job. LinkedIn hired us to post. What are you going to post about? And that's something that we can all continue to figure out together. All right, everybody. Thank you all. Remember, this is an exciting time in our lives. It could be. It's a chance to reset and rethink how we do things. And you deserve an upgrade. I want you to give it to yourself. Also, follow me on Instagram. Claire Gets Paid. That's the best place to connect with me. But hopefully I'll see you next week. Good luck, everyone. You've got the, either way, you're all learning and growing. That's for damn sure. All right.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.